get started with the data-driven spawning, first we needed to create a struct that would be deserialized later. Eventually we want to create these JSON files that represent what can be spawned, but then there needs to be an in-memory representation. So I tried to create a reference to a base class, but I set it as an object reference, which I'd find out later would not work. After that, we create a data table with essentially the same shape. The biggest difference here is going to be the inclusion of a name. And so that name acts like a key, and it'll map the struct that we just created to a specific row. At this point, I was trying to use a JSON file to populate the data table. So that was not really successful. You have it in here. Basically, I tried to just find the existing file path using the context menu here, and then pasting that in using the documentation. I tried to copy the syntax, which this did not work. The documentation isn't entirely wrong, but it's also not helpful on how you actually get the right path. So the secret sauce to getting this to work is setting it as a type class. It took me a second to figure this out, I think through forums and stuff, which I'll link up for reference, but that's the first bit. So with that class reference in the structure, we can kind of look around. So here's how we'll eventually instantiate the actor. And so you can see that if it's of a type class, we can utilize the blueprint node that can spawn a class as opposed to whatever else I was trying to do, which the object reference is only good for in runtime memory stuff. So this would be able to guess read from disk and instantiate a whole new object. Even after getting that set up, it still wouldn't import. So something was wrong with my path, and it took me a second to figure it out. But effectively, you had to, well, I guess you don't have to if you know already, but what I ended up doing is manually setting it, and then it gave me the path, so then I could start to predict what the path would be. At that point, just had to get the blueprint set up to spawn the actor from class and fix the positions, all of that. So at first, I just started manually testing by toggling that class name by hand. And by now, I've got it got it actually randomized. But at first, it was just kind of testing each one to make sure it showed up. And it was really messy. I had to get the positions worked out so that each one fit. But once we got it, that was it.